This is Awareness Explorers.
Welcome back, fellow explorers, to Awareness Explorers. I'm the co-host, Jonathan, and I'm with my buddy and cosmic compadre,
Brian. I guess we're first names only today.
We're on first name basis at this point. And we'll be interviewing a woman named Trina, who will also be on first name basis. And as often happens, one of us knows a lot about the guest and the other is completely ignorant. I'm the ignorant one today. Brian will ask the more deep questions, but let me tell you a little bit about Trina. So Trina's full name is Trina Dawn. She was raised as a fundamentalist Christian, but her heart longed for a deep connection with God, and it was hard for her to reconcile the fear and expectations that her Christian beliefs demanded. She tried everything: India, yoga, meditation, satsangs, astrology, tantra, trauma work, plant medicines, energy healing. That's an amazing amount of stuff, Trina. Anyways, but despite it all, she felt like something was missing. And then 12 and a half years ago, something finally shifted. She realized that she had been searching for was hidden in plain sight, and the freshness and purity of divine creation was unfolding before her in every moment. This realization sparked a wonderful enthusiasm to share it with others, and she supports others in her work through various methods. Welcome to Awareness Explorers, Trina.
Lovely to be here. Thank you.
I looked briefly at your website, and I have a lot of questions right off the bat. Brian will probably be asking more thorough questions, but it sounds like something happened 12 and a half years ago, and I'm wondering what really made the shift for you after so many things that you were trying?
Yeah. So, just a little correction there with the timing. I had been a seeker for 12 and a half years. So, yeah. And so what initiated the end of my seeking was just the clear and direct pointing that there was nothing other than the moment that I had been in, and that there was no point in seeking anymore because this moment was whole and complete exactly as it was. So I can't say that it was an experience. It was more of a recognition of what was here that had never changed. And through that, the ideas and the journey that I had imagined myself to be on, a character existing in a timeline of past and future that was on my way to get somewhere, that was on my way to achieve something, was just seen as another story of the mind. And so as the seeking fell away, the stories and the beliefs that this reality wasn't enough was just no longer referenced, was just no longer taken seriously. And so now I offer this direct pointing to people as well, that the very thing that they're looking for is already here and it's already awake.
I find that fascinating, partly because, for myself, what you said all makes sense, and I experience that periodically for moments really throughout most days. Yet it seems like I have a very strong boomerang mind that keeps going back to thinking that I am a person doing stuff, etc., separate, all the things that, quote, normal people might think. And it sounds like for someone like you and other people we've talked about, there was a moment where there was like a tipping point. Is that how you would describe it?
I wouldn't describe it that way, no. And I think that that's one of the, and because how I work is I'm talking to people one-on-one in sessions. So it's kind of like I'm on the front lines of the non-duality scene, right? Of those people that are really seeking for awakening. And many of them, and myself included, get trapped in these ideas that there's going to be this sudden moment that shifts everything. And, there'll be light and there'll be clarity and they'll be before awakening and after awakening. But the more that I come into this clarity, the less even that word awakening makes sense to me, because the mind positions it as this moment that happens that's going to change everything. And then my suffering is going to end. But how I approach it is that a lot of the suffering is contained in the seeking. And the seeker basically lives in the next. The seeker is always trying to get somewhere, and it imagines that what's here isn't enough. Right?
And the seeker will never become awakened because the seeker is the problem.
Yeah, the seeker is just thought patterns that are identified with, that inherently contained within that is just a subtle or very strong resistance to what is. So it's just an illusion of words that are playing, that are perpetuating, that are seeking for more words, that are seeking for their spiritual expectations in a moment other than now, right? The seeker is trying to escape the moment by improving it or by chasing spiritual ideals. And so, yeah, I feel like this is one thing that isn't really addressed a lot in modern spirituality and non-duality topics, is that we talk about the seeker, we talk about how, the mind is never going to get it. But the very act of continuing to go to satsangs and reading books and taking in all of this non-duality content under the guise of hoping that this moment's going to happen that will change everything is the very thing that just perpetuates the illusion.
Keeps us on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also mentioned that a lot of people are doing it to hopefully end their suffering. And this is a fascinating subject for me, because one of our previous guests, Saja Fendel, talks about it in a way. He says giving yourself permission to suffer. And he said he stopped trying to end suffering. In other words, that no longer became his goal.
Yeah.
Maybe seeing truth was, or maybe he was goalless. So how we remove our desire to remove our suffering, which you can't do anyway, because there's nothing you can do to remove suffering. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how we get so trapped in the suffering, is because we imagine that there is an I that needs to go out there and needs to remove it. But that I is also just another product of thought, in the same way that the mind labels suffering, right? Because the thoughts are constantly referring to the past and the future. Like the past and the future are basically that they are only contained in thought. The only way that we can reference the past and the future is through thought. And so the mind has memories, or the thoughts contain the memories, and it's constantly referencing that, and it's constantly building a story and pulling that suffering into the moment and projecting it outwards and imagining that I'm a character, I'm suffering because I have memories of suffering in the past, and that's just going to be my reality, and I've got to get out of it. Right. I was actually speaking to a woman a couple of days ago who was telling me, she was pretty clear, like we'd done a bunch of sessions together, and she was like, yeah, the seeking's dropped away, like everything's so much better. But there was this sticking point that she had, where she had this health anxiety, and she had these, because she had a health scare a couple of years ago and she still had to go and get tests for it. And every time that the testing period would come up, there would be a lot of nervousness and a lot of thoughts and a lot of triggers and projections and stuff. And kind of what, the normal way of approaching it is just, yeah, feel into what's here, let that energy process, let that nervous system release. But I go even more direct in my sessions, where it's like, yeah, can you just allow that to be as it is? Right? Because so much of the suffering is because the mind is going to the future, is because we're living in the future. But right now, where's the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's only a problem when we're referencing a moment that's not happening right now.
Yeah, and it seems to me that all thought, almost without exception, is about problem to be solved.
Yeah.
And it's all problems seem to be only thought.
Yeah, it's like the mind creates a problem so that it can go and solve it. It's almost like this function of thought is like a virus in a sense, or like a parasite in a sense, that it just wants to keep thinking. It doesn't matter what the thoughts are, but it just wants to keep thinking. But at the end of the day, when we really look at what's happening, it's just words. It's just words that are playing in our subjective experience. And then, of course, there's an imaginary claiming of that we call the I, or that we call the separate self, or the ego, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just programmed words, right? And all words are made up. Every single word, it's a man-made invention, including awakening, including all of these spiritual concepts that the mind grasps onto and imagines that it's going to find this ultimate reality in a moment other than now. But what if the ultimate reality, which is also just a concept, but what it's pointing to is the very moment that you're in? Even if there's thoughts, even if there's triggers. And like you said with your last guess, it's like, if that's what's happening, then that's what's happening. The suffering comes from the resistance to that.
You speak very well of that, Trina. I appreciate your clarity. I'm curious, when, say, you start to see through the illusion more, what would you say was different in your life as a result? And you mentioned earlier how it's not a blowout experience. I'm wondering, was there a lot of difference, or was it very gradual over time, in terms of maybe how you experienced your day-to-day life?
Yeah, good question. So it was a gradual unfolding for me. How it all started was I began working with a guide who's doing the same work that I'm doing. His name is Emerson. And I did multiple sessions with him where he was just pointing directly to this clarity that's not based on getting somewhere, that's here right now. We can call it emptiness, we can call it the no self, right? But just this space that's here, that's already awake, and whatever's happening in it, there's no one controlling that. So it's almost like, I use the example as if you're outside for a walk and you have an umbrella. And then after a while walking, you look out and you realize it's not raining, and that you actually didn't need the umbrella the whole time. So sometimes, and for many people, it can feel like a wow. But for me, it was more of like oh, like, yeah, I had been this the whole time. It was already this. And yeah, I can't deny it. It is just an ongoing, never unfolding process. I can't say that there's an end point or there's a moment that shifted everything. It's just was like, oh yeah, I'm not thinking about those concerns anymore. Oh yeah, I'm not so attached to that identity anymore. Oh yeah, there's just a natural, spontaneous living from this neutral, direct space that I can't actually get out of, that I can't actually turn on. And so the system just kind of began to orient to this naturally as the seeking fell away. So I don't have a dramatic, aha experience to share. I mean, there were many beautiful little insights that came along the way, but it was just a gradual unfolding into this space that I had known my entire life. And that's the crazy part, was that we're seeking for it in the future, but it's what's here between the past and the future.
Awakening has no shelf life.
It doesn't. And I feel like there is this real, mystical or mysterious sentiment around oftentimes how it's imagined in the mind, or even how it's spoken about sometimes. Like it's this thing that's just going to permanently remove all of the difficulties in the life, and that it means that I have to have no thoughts, or that I have to have no triggers. That can still be there, right? But the story that they define your reality weakens, because there's a reality here already that has nothing to do with what you think, right? The words and the explanations and the thoughts, they come after, and they, in a sense, interpret reality. And that's where the I don't like this, I need something more, I'm not enough exists. And so one of the first questions that I ask people when I'm working with them one-on-one is, what are you right now without language? You take away all the words right now. What are you?
That's one of my favorite techniques, and Brian has that in his book. He calls it become wordless.
Yeah.
And it's so direct. It's a beautiful technique. Do you, at this point in your journey, you obviously guide people in methods like that, and that's a brilliant method. Do you personally use methods at this point?
No, there's no point. It's just kind of like whatever's happening. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm some perfect, like, I don't even know what all of that stuff means anymore. There's just a clarity here. There's just a natural being. There's just a natural response to the circumstances that surround me. So even if the body feels a trigger, or there's a, what we would say a negative reaction, right? It's just like, okay, that happened. There's no reflecting on it and trying to fix it and trying to make myself something other than what's appearing in the moment. Yeah, it's like sometimes nothing really needs to change except the belief that something needs to change. And in that, a whole unfolding into the directness of what is just naturally comes about, because this is our natural state, right? We've just been under the guise, we've been under the illusion that we are these, finite characters that are on this spiritual journey of transcendence to get somewhere else, and that this isn't enough, and that there's something that I need to find. But take that away right now, and it's right here.
Yeah. And one of the things that people on that journey suffer from is the feeling that they have not yet lost the illusion of the separate self, the identity. My feeling is that that doesn't need to go away. That's just another appearance, like thought and like the feeling of my butt on the chair and the sound of the birds. It's just another thing that's there, this idea that there's a body and a person, but it doesn't seem to me to be who I really, really am deep down or behind or before everything. And words start to fall apart at this point.
So true, right? Because the very act of trying to seek for no self just perpetuates the self, but it's only just thoughts, fighting thoughts at the end of the day. And I think we hear about these ideas of, oh, the no self, like, I just want myself to drop away. I just want to completely dissolve, as if that's like, even that is as if that's like so appealing. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's not like we're living in a paradise right now where we can just walk around being like, I am Brahman and blissed out all day. It's not like conducive, right? I mean, when we hear these amazing stories of Ramana and Anandamayi, right, where the termites are eating his body and he's just so in a transcendent space, like, we can't really get down with that in this modern world, right? This is just a recognition of what is. So yeah, I really try to demystify all of that for the clients, and to almost just downplay because we really want to pedestalize this, nuanced or novel expression of the no self, but it doesn't, no self, there's only what is. Right? That's just another kind of carrot for the mind to chase, to hang its hat on. And in that, there's a subtle resistance to life, or a grand resistance. I talk to people like hardcore seekers, like people that lock themselves in their room, in their houses for years, even people that are spending thousands and thousands of dollars on gurus and retreats and concepts, and pouring their whole heart into this, thinking that it's going to heal them, but missing that there's something here that's awake right now. And it doesn't need to look in the way that your mind imagines it to look. So the spirituality can just easily turn in, and non-duality as well, can easily turn into just another mental matrix.
Yeah. What you're saying makes sense, though. I'll play devil's advocate for a moment, if
Sure,
it's okay.
Yeah.
The devil made me do it. There's potentially, in what you say, a problem with spiritual bypassing of emotions and issues and trauma and things like that. So for someone who might have a hard time getting what you're saying, or maybe even getting what you're saying, but they use it in a way to bypass the issues that they have, what would you say to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I call it escaping.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, and I talk to loads of people that, yeah, they have this idea that that there's going to be this moment of enlightenment that's just going to shift everything for them, and they don't, but that's just another projection of the future, right? So I don't say, yeah, if someone has trauma, go to therapy, like go get help for that. Like I'm not a trauma therapist. There definitely can be overlaps to it, but it's also at the same time, it's not like you have to be fully rid of your trauma or your negative, triggers or thought patterns in order to come into this clarity. Like a recognition
Mm-hmm.
is not hard. It's really not hard. Like I pretty much every session that I do with people, and I've done hundreds of sessions, it's not hard to direct people to this if you know it, to this kind of emptiness. If you know what you're doing, it's really not that difficult. If there's an openness to it, doesn't mean that you're just going to go riding off into the sunset and everything's going to be great. Yeah, no, we still have a nervous system, and there's still value to that. So this isn't bypassing. This is just kind of just being really, really clear about what awakening or what these teachings are without blending it with other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if emotions arise, emotions that we might, call negative emotions like fear, anxiety, etc., then is it simply noticing what's here now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just go super direct. I just say, what are you without the future? Because that often is where the anxiety is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
What
like,
was the question again? I didn't hear that.
what are you without the future?
Oh, what are you without the future? Yeah,
Take
that's a
away
good
take
question.
away the future right now. Right.
Yeah.
And so many times I'm like, okay, yeah, take away the future. Where's the fear? They're like, oh yeah. Because the thought will want to hijack it, and then it will want to create it and turn it into a whole story. Right. It's like the emotions will mirror the thoughts. So you'll have a thought, I'm unsafe, or a feeling, I'm unsafe. And then there'll be a whole story that gets created from that just recreates this illusion of but take away the words right now. What's the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just safe in your living room talking to me. There's nothing to be afraid of, right? And so, yeah, repetition and doing sessions, it is really helpful because you start to just realize that, from an experiential standpoint, not from a conceptual standpoint where
Mm-hmm.
you're reading about this stuff in a book, but you're actually having the direct experience of, oh yeah, no, I am grounded in this. There's nothing to worry about.
It seems
Yeah.
like everybody gets caught up in what I would call their favorite identity. The favorite identity might be that they're an alcoholic, or they have a lot of trauma, or even the identity that I'm awake. All of those
Yeah.
identities create an obstacle to the thisness of now. In the people you work with, what are the identities people seem to be most attached to?
Oh, the seeker one's a big one. Like I tend to really attract, or I'm never going to get it. Like there's something to get.
Uh-huh.
Right. And before my calls, I do give space for people to share their seeking story with me, just so I kind of have a sense of where they're at, and what the spiritual conditioning is, what teachers they've been listening to, and so on, and practices. Because yeah, I talk to many people that have been in cults and whatnot, but the seeker identity is big. This
Mm-hmm.
this idea of being on a journey to get somewhere, or that I'm never going to get it, or that it's impossible. That's the main one kind of that I can think of now. But so it really is just because it's like people are seeking for this, but they don't even know what it is. Like the mind has this sacred cow idea of enlightenment, but it doesn't even know what it is. It's like the worst tour guide ever. It's like trying to take you to a place that it's never actually been to, right? It's just chasing its imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I've seen this phenomenon happen over and over again. I'm sure that you have be talking to them and they have a strong desire to awaken. Their seeker personality is predominant. And I think of it as the mighty butt, or sometimes just the wriggling away. If I say what you're seeking is already here, they say, yes, but how do I see it?
Right.
Or yes, I experience the joy when I allow this moment to be as it is, but how do I keep this? How do I do this tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or I understand all is one, but I'm still suffering. Um, what helps them break through in your experience, other than, well,
Yeah.
you described a lot of repetition. What else?
Yeah, and that's it. That really is why the one-on-ones are so powerful, because you're basically meeting the conditioning where it's at. So if someone says, yeah, but what was one of your examples?
Yeah, how do I keep it? Or what do
How
what if
do
it
I,
goes away tomorrow? Or
what if it go, yeah,
I can't, it doesn't stay.
yeah. So those are all thoughts.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just a bunch of blah, blah, blah gibberish. So I'll typically say, what are you without that thought? Right? Or what are you without the future right now? Because the mind will say, oh, well, what if it goes away? I get that a lot, especially when there's a recognition.
Yeah.
How do I keep this? Right?
Right.
And it's like, well, can you lose it right now? See if you can turn it off. See if you can get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the very act of how do I keep this, you go back into duality again, right? The mind positions it as a me and as something that I keep, but there's no distance. It's the same thing. It's the very kind of 0 point field that you're living in this whole time. So just really pointing directly to the space that's here, that's so obvious, before the mind creates an explanation about it, right? Because it's like the words and the thoughts are add-ons. And that's where the illusion is contained. And it's wild, because words are so powerful, but they're also so empty as well. Like they just evaporate the moment that they're spoken. But they feel so real, because we've been so conditioned to function from that paradigm, that dimension. But it's at the same time, what you're looking for is already exposed. It's already this. So the very act of seeking it and trying to hold it is the very thing that's, just perpetuating the illusion that it's not it. So just pointing out constantly the illusion of words.
I'm going to bring up a slightly different topic because it's in the news. I'd be interested in your hit on this, Trina, and also Brian's. There's been, with the release of the Epstein files, certain spiritual teachers that were in those files. And, people I've seen have been reacting to that, which brings up the subject, what's the relationship between, say, this direct recognition and moral and ethical behavior? Do you see that there is a connection, or is that just a belief that we create? I'm wondering anything you might have to say about that, because it hasn't really affected me. I've interviewed a lot of gurus. Some have very high moral standards, some not. I look at more like, did I learn something from them? But I have seen in a lot of talk on the internet, a lot of people were really, their reality was shaken by some of these revelations. And I'm wondering how you think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. And I've spoken about this before in some of my lives. So what I share is, it's not about morality. The direct pointing is, I keep it very, very clean. It's not about what you do, right? The space that I'm existing in, where life is coming from, we could say this neutral 0 point field, is the same space that's in me, that's in every single human being that's ever walked the planet, right? So it's not about morality. It's not about, because like we have these spiritual ideas that we need to do good karma and that we need to, do good karma basically in order to have this realization that there's some tie-in with that. Typically, you'd think that most people that are interested in the deeper secrets of life would be a bit more like sattvic, or, generally if they're not in like a fight or flight kind of graspy, greedy expression, or if they were in that, they would be very unlikely that they would be interested in these concepts, but I don't know, never say never. But then when it comes to teachers, well-known teachers that are, essentially outed, from the perspective that I'm in now and with the clarity that I see now, I do not see it to be very unlikely that a lot of certain teachers anyway that are claiming to be awakened or claiming to have, a special spiritual state or have answers towards the truth haven't actually been, what's the word, compromised, right? And we see this, anybody can go up there and say that they're enlightened. Anybody can go up there and say that they have special abilities or that they know the answer to truth. And many times it starts off as that way. They just are a seeker and they take in this information and maybe they have some spiritual experiences. But the issue with this is really, people can turn into cult leaders even if they've had recognitions or spiritual, philosophical understandings, because the mind will want to take that and then it will want to create a meaning of it. It will want to like hang its hat, like this is the truth, or I know the truth, or I'm special. It's so sneaky how even if there is some clarity, the mind can start creating a story about that clarity, and then it can shapeshift and start spinning all these tales, but you don't actually see it many times. So yeah, it is my perspective that there are many spiritual teachers, well-known spiritual teachers that are cult leaders right now.
The mind is infinitely flexible and devious.
It is. And I think many people, they believe even what they're saying or they don't. I don't want to say that everyone's a sociopath, but yeah, it does play a real big trick on us. And so how I really approach this when I'm working with clients is just there's no goal. Like there's no final moment where you get it and then everything's done. It's already done. It's already this. You're already living in the divine creation. And so however it's appearing is how it's appearing, right? Don't hang your hat on anything. There's nothing to claim anymore. There's no one to claim it anymore. It just is as it is, however it is, right? But the ego hides in spirituality very strongly. And so people can become compromised and we've seen it all throughout history as well with different religious leaders. Yeah.
And we also create our own identity around our teacher's identity. Yeah. And that's what it seems to me is the most challenged by this kind of situation that Jonathan described. I have attached my identity to the goodness and the truth of this particular teacher, and then that's what's endangered now. And maybe that being endangered is not such a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's really how we are manipulated as a society, is that it's not a belief anymore. It's an identity.
Yeah.
Now it's not just, oh, I think this or I see the world in this way. This is who I am. And so people are willing to fight wars for that, right? They're willing to die for that because they have identified with a mental concept and made that into this fake character that they take themselves to be.
Yep.
Now, that's a good description of our world right now.
It is. It really is.
It really is.
Yeah. And the media knows exactly what they're doing, right? The political leaders, they know exactly what they're doing. Right? They can play with the mind. They know how it works. They can capitalize on that. And they can create whole movements where people are, expressing in violence and in ways that don't correlate with their moral views at all. But it's okay now because it's me. It's my identity. It's my belief.
Yeah. I struggled with that for a long time because you mentioned that you had started as a fundamentalist Christian, and at one point you had woken up from that. Now, for me, that happened in 8th grade, but what stayed was the desire to convince others that they're wrong, and that wheel that kept spinning for many years, and is maybe even only now slowing down.
Yeah, I can so relate to that. Yeah, having like imaginary arguments in your head
Yeah.
with people about why you're right and they're wrong, but it's just the flip side of the other story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just words.
I have a somewhat unique experience with this in that I was with a teacher for 26 years. And after maybe being with him for 5 years, he was kind of, Buddhist-like in some ways. But I always had I was born Jewish, and I had a definite self-righteous attitude towards Christianity. Like, these people believe this crap, that type of thing. And was rather self-righteous. So I was living with him and a bunch of students, and he told me to take a year off and become a born-again Christian.
Particularly born again, not just a Christian in general.
Well, like you really have to accept Jesus and do that trip. And he said it'll probably take at least 6 months to a year, but I'll know when and if it happens. So I had to move out, leave all my friends, and then go. There was a Christian preacher on campus where I was, UC Santa Barbara, who I used to argue with. I went up to him. This took a lot of humility.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I said, I need your help in giving my heart to Jesus, which this may be the hardest thing I ever did. And I thought he would go off on his self-righteous trip, but he was very helpful actually. And what was funny in a way was that level of humility. When I went to church for maybe the first time, I was what I would call inundated with the Holy Spirit to the point that they had to help me out of the church because I was so blissed out. So my reality was like, I don't know what's going on here, which is a really good place to be. And I really did have quite an experience there, which definitely impacted me to be able to be open to it doesn't really matter about belief systems. It's what's your experience, how open are you, and what can you be open to the energies of the universe. And but I saw that not knowing what's going on and not going with belief systems was certainly a key for me. And it sounds like you went through some kind of transformation that way as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I was, raised fundamentalist, like kind of a neocon ideologies, kind of like Christian nationalist. And I just thought that, okay, this is the truth and how it was presented. And I felt God. Like I remember feeling Jesus as a child, and I went to a charismatic church, and there was just everyone was rolling around and speaking in tongues and dancing and having a good time. And I wouldn't say it was suffering or anything, but there was a lot of like fire and brimstone and fear as well. And then I never really enjoyed it, but as I got older anyway. But I always thought, okay, one day I'm gonna go back to God and I'm gonna marry a Christian and whatever. And in my 20s, I had this like awakening, I guess you could say. I was watching a documentary about propaganda, and they had different portions, like about how different institutions in our society use propaganda to control us, to control our minds. And there was a part on there about religion, and I don't remember what it was, but it was maybe only 5 minutes, and I had never really heard Christianity being criticized in that way before. And it just was like, oh my God, yeah, And at the time I saw it as a political manipulation tool, which is, I still see it that way now. But that's how I was like, oh my God, it's not, like in a second, like just in an instant, I just, like I had to turn the computer off because I was like, I can't watch this anymore. And that's when my seeking began, really. But even though I didn't, even though it could have been, okay, if I just die, I die, and I'm just plant food and there's no meaning to life, like the Darwinian approach, philosophy, there was still a sense of freedom that I felt, like an openness there that, okay, I don't have to follow these rules. And yeah, but the conditioning, like you mentioned, Brian, was still very much active, still very much like looking to some higher power, to some concept for some ultimate truth that I would find in my mind, right? Some being that would just take care of everything, and finding the right thing and the wrong thing, and yeah, the momentum of the ego that was wanting to just have it right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like something that happened for both of you, although it happened in two different directions, was a loosening.
Yeah.
Well,
Loosening
both of us had our beliefs blown, and it led me to being open to Christianity, and it led her to being free of Christianity, which is the Lord works in mysterious ways, as they say. But I find that it's really when you stop identifying with a one belief system, it does open you to what is, and how that shows up in your life can be different for different people.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because our show is called Awareness Explorers, I have to ask this because I came across a video of yours, Trina, that called You Are Not Awareness. And the subtitle is The Non-Duality Hamster Wheel of Abiding in Awareness. And I'm sure that this covers many topics that we've already talked about. But I was wondering if you would be interested in expanding on the You Are Not Awareness, or the hamster wheel of abiding in awareness.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this is something that I can speak about quite well, and because I know it very well, because ever since I first started getting into non-duality, which was 10 years ago, my practice was abiding in the I am, right? Abiding in awareness. And so all my meditations would be focused on being in the awareness, trying to find the awareness, looking for the awareness, identifying as the awareness. But I realized that what was actually happening, that was that my mind was objectifying a concept and labeling it as awareness and pedestalizing that as if it was something that was outside of me, or that was something that was going to unlock if I spent enough time looking at it, or that it was some kind of like, I know they describe it as like transparent and already here, but there was, the way that it is talked about by certain teachers is that it is in a way that objectifies it. And especially when you continue to use the same language over and over and over again to describe that which actually can't be labeled, the ineffable. I say the word clarity, I say the word directness, but awareness just creates another carrot for the mind to chase, because in the direct experience right now, if you just go to this space here without words, awareness is just another word, right? Awareness just becomes another concept in the mind. But it's really the non-conceptual that you're looking for. And so the concept clouds the non-conceptual, because the direct experience, it's like you're trying to describe the taste of a mango, and you're like, it's sweet, it's juicy, it's like, it tastes like a mango. It tastes like a mango. You just have to taste it. It's not the words sweet, juicy, right? It is the taste, it's the flavor. And so when you start looking to have a direct experience of your true nature, the word awareness, in a sense, and I get why people say that as well. Like, we have to use a word for it, but the mind wants to hang its hat on something, and then it just turns into more and more seeking. So I always say, just don't even give it a name, because you could give it 1,000 names, but the direct experience of what's here right now, it doesn't come with a name, right? The name is an add-on. The mind objectifies this word awareness. And even though, fine, we can have a word for it, but it's not really an it.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes an it when we label it as awareness, but there is, like, the mind creates the observer, the experience of the observer and the observed, right? The masculine and the feminine, the Shiva and the Shakti, those are concepts, right? Those are mental interpretations, but in the direct experience, there's no separation, there's no boundary, there's just what's happening. Right. So like many times in my sessions, especially if people are like a little bit struggling with this, I'll ask them to notice the sensation of their hands. And then I'll ask them, what is it that's feeling the sensation? And they're like, I don't know. Like, what actually is it? Like, what is the substance that's feeling your hands right now, that's experiencing your hands? Is it awareness? Is that what it is? Because that's just another concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we get caught up with this idea of awareness, thinking that it's something that we need to find or that we need to awaken. But you're already awake right now.
And you couldn't possibly not be aware.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the neti practice. And I'm only talking about my own personal experience, that when I keep asking, like, well, what am I? And if awareness happens to be one of the answers, is, well, who or what notices awareness? And it keeps going back and back until I just simply can't come up with any words. But there's something that's known, and there's like a falling back, like the Buddhists call it, a half step back, and just sort of being it. Like I always say, you can't see it, you can only be it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you without your questions right now?
Yeah, I love that.
Here it is. And again, yeah, we could give it thousands of words, but
Yeah.
We get very attached to our labels, whether the label is God, awareness, consciousness, Jesus. People will fight to the death for their particular label.
yeah, so true.
Well, we've changed our name from Awareness Explorers to, actually, I can't think of a substitute. Blank.
Just blank.
No label explorers. Wordless explorers.
Yeah.
Well, like Emerson had his nothing conference.
That's good. Yeah.
And Ron Bass used to talk about becoming nobody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure. Of course, even then, even nobody
Even
can
then,
become a
yeah,
label.
that's just another thought, right?
Yeah, right.
And then
So it's like,
he thought it would be good to create posters that said "Nobody for president."
that's good.
Is there any question that you would or anything that you would like to mention that we haven't asked you about yet?
Nothing's coming to mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that you have a meditation for us, and of course, we'll give people a way to contact you. Actually, before the meditation, how do people get in touch with you? I know you do one-on-one sessions.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, I have put a lot of content out on there. So just to get a feel for my work, I share discussions, one-on-one discussions that I've had with people, and also some of my video lives. I'm also on TikTok, so check me out there. It's just Trina
It's
Dawn.
come to that,
111.
TikTok at this point.
Well, that's actually where I started, was TikTok. I was already doing some social media for a different business that I was involved in. And as I started coming into this clarity, just ideas started pouring through to share it on TikTok. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth on yeah, expressing about this online. And then it turned into YouTube after that. So I know
Yeah.
it's so funny. Hey?
Yeah, David Farmer said that's where he first ran into you, on TikTok
Yeah,
of all places.
I know.
But I also know, and I can put the links to your TikTok and your Instagram and your Facebook and I don't know about Facebook if you have that,
Yeah,
YouTube, and your website is trinadawn.com.
that's right. Yeah. And you can book through there as well. Yeah.
So I'd love to have you guide us in nothingness.
Okay. All right.
And before you start, when he asked your previous question and you said nothing comes to mind, I love that. That could be the title of this whole episode.
Perfect. Nothing comes to mind. Yeah.
Or we'll talk about nothing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just start by taking a nice, long, slow breath in and out. And let's just notice what's here right now without any effort. What takes no effort to exist right now? Does it take any effort to make your heart beat? Does it take any effort to make the grass grow outside? Does it take any effort to hear the sounds that are coming out of my mouth right now? Does it take any effort to just be alive in this moment? To just exist? No. We just find ourselves in the middle of a reality. There's all these things going on around us, in our bodies, in our thoughts. And we're just here, just alive. Right now, we can't find a reason for that. Pretty much everything is here without effort right now. And so, what are you without language? You just take a moment to observe your environment. You take away the words. Take away the labels. What are you without labels right now? What are you without your memories right now? What are you without the next? What if there's nothing to resolve? Resolving can happen, or what we call resolving. But what are you without the story that something needs to be resolved? That something needs to be more than what it already is. What if there's nothing more than this? What's in between I'm enough and I'm not enough? What's in between awakened and unawakened? It's just this blankness. This spacious, direct openness, allowing for whatever experience happens to appear. There's something here right now that's already awake. You know what I mean when I say that. It's already awake. Doesn't require a journey of seeking in order to be awake. It doesn't require a concept or a certain level of purification in order to be awake. It's shining right now without effort. But does it have a location? Does it appear with a name? Does it need anything from you? Is there a distance between it and you? So where's your identity right now? Can you find it in the direct experience? It's just a temporary thought that imagines there's something more for it. But take away the concept of more right now. What's left? What are you without the seeker? Right here. Effortlessly right here. And even take away the word here. And just be it.
That was beautiful, Trina. I always love, our viewers don't get, but I always love watching Brian during these meditations. He looks like he's completely blissed out, which he is.
Yeah, I loved it, and I particularly loved all the questions, because I love these kinds of questions, although they are not designed to come up with answers in more words, but to point, to redirect our attention to that wordless space.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you had, I appreciate that you had some unique questions, which I found helpful in pointing to the nothing this. I want to do a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you for supporting us. We do send people who support us a bunch of free stuff. So if you're interested, go to patreon.com/awareness explorers. And people can reach you at Trina Dawn, DAWN, right? .com?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. And this was really wonderful. I feel incredibly peaceful, and or I shouldn't say I feel incredibly peaceful. There is peace.
Words,
There's
right?
peace here existing in this.
For nobody.
For nobody. Yeah, let's make that perfectly clear. And we really appreciate it.
I found in that meditation that even if there was a sidetrack, even if there was a stream of words that came in, it didn't seem to matter. I mean, it didn't, I mean, the conceptless, nameless spaciousness wasn't affected by it.
Yeah. It starts to lose its stickiness once you kind of get into this clarity that's before the identity. And it's like, yeah, the thoughts can be there.
Yeah.
Just passing clouds.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing to resist.
Yeah. The sky's still there. Yeah. I love that metaphor.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, I
thank
cut
you,
you
Trina.
off. You were going into your landing, putting down your landing gear.
It's great being exposed to your work, Trina, and I know our listeners will get a lot of benefit. So thank you, and thank our listeners. And until next time, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Thank you. Much love.
Thank you for listening to Awareness Explorers. To learn more, you can check out our website at awarenessexplorers.com. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. We'd love it if you would post a review. And please share our link with family and friends, because knowing yourself as awareness is the greatest gift you can give yourself or someone you love.